It's been pretty cloudy at the end of the year here, December, January. I haven't had a chance to really get out much, but tonight I pulled out the 10-inch backpack dob and set it up. Was scanning around and came across NGC 2903, which, when I was star hopping around and I went to that spot, it popped out pretty immediately. Even though the skies aren't super great tonight, figured I'd give it a shot. Right now, I would say that bortle 8 probably. There's quite a bit of haze in the sky that over the course of the night looks like it's getting a little bit worse, but it's still enough for me to just make out some of the details within this galaxy. So I figured, why not? Starting out like usual, placing the main stars with a pencil. Which makes it pretty easy to make tweaks as you're going along, plotting out all the general spacing of stuff. Because I haven't been out for a while, it took a little while for me to get my fountain pen working here. So I was just taking a few passes at just like getting the ink flowing again. I really should probably just pull it apart and give it a cleaning. These fountain pens I found have been really great for getting into those really specific fine-tuned dots of light, but at the same time, if you don't clean them regularly, like in a week, because of the type of ink that you need to use for the white, it really gunks it up. But no less, regardless, I'm still using it. Because the galaxies are pretty darn dim, and especially with the not so great conditions, I turned off the light for a little while and just spent a couple minutes observing to really get my eyes comfortable with the dark, trying to pull out all the details that I could. And as I was looking at it, I had a pretty clear sense of sort of like the general size that I was seeing there, at least. And then I had fleeting moments of where I would see a little bit of kind of like blobby textures and that kind of stuff. So I'm starting out here by just drawing a bit of a light circle of the general shape of what I was noticing up in the sky, and then taking a little bit of time to fill in a little bit more of the overall kind of just the amount of contrast that I felt like I was noticing through there. For tonight's observing, I'm using a 24 millimeter TeleVue Panoptic eyepiece. Which it's a nice wide field in my telescope. And I really liked the composition of sort of that L shape that it was creating with the primary stars, and how the galaxy just was nestled into that L. And I also have a UHC filter to help pull out some of those details. So with my smudge tool, I generally try and do all of my loading up with that shaved Conti and stuff on one side, and then I use the other side as a pretty clean, almost like an eraser type thing. So this side that I'm using right now is smudging down. It's like the eraser side that shouldn't have a whole lot of Conti on it. I'm mostly trying to like take things away and smear it around, and then I just flipped it back around to the side that has the Conti on it to just like add a little bit more. There's a little bit of kind of going back and forth. I've been thinking that I should probably, instead of just guessing which side has it, or sometimes I'll rub it on my hand to see which side has the Conti on it, I should probably just draw a line on one of the sides so I know. But anyway, it was getting into a pretty decent shape for what I remembered seeing that first time through. Turned off the light for a couple more minutes to just observe a little longer. I cut out some of the black there because there's no point leaving it there. And then just filled in a few more details and felt pretty decent about the general shape of it. At that point, I took out the UHC filter just so I could increase the brightness just a little bit and make out some of those fainter stars. So you can see me popping in some of those fainter stars. For this, having the fountain pen upside down actually helps a lot in terms of just like making it a little bit of a finer dot. Felt pretty good about it where it was at this moment, so I turned on the amber light just to check and see how things are looking in more of a natural light. Made a few little tweaks and adjustments, and at this point I was like, well, I could be done, but let's take a look under a little bit more magnification. The Panoptic 24 that I was using up until this point is good, but I find that definitely like getting in a little bit more tight generally reveals some more details. So I put in a 13 millimeter Nagler, and I did start seeing a lot more specificity with some of, like, there were like these textures going on within the galaxy that I thought was pretty cool. So using the charcoal pencil instead now, because it was able to give me a little bit more defined shaping. I use that to kind of mark in what I was seeing with that, and then softening all that stuff down again using the smudge tool. Looking at Sky Safari after the fact, when I came back inside the next day, and on the next day, I was noticing that there is also NGC 2905, which is a bright nebula within the path of the viewing path of seeing this galaxy. And I have to say I wasn't able to really distinguish the difference between there. You know, the seeing conditions were definitely not good enough for that. So I can't say that I saw it, but hopefully in the future. Right now, it's primarily just kind of pulling out some of the sharpness of those lines that I had drawn in, trying to still maintain what I had seen, but reducing down a little bit on kind of just like the contrast of it. And I switched, this light that I'm using has 3 functions. It's got like the amber, the red, and then a mix between red and amber. So I switched it over to the red amber mix here just to kind of like see it a little bit better and to define it just a little bit more. Using the eraser even within some of the galaxy shaping can be pretty helpful too for just defining just little bits of streaks and that kind of thing. So at this point, it was pretty much in good shape. I decided to take out the UHC filter from the 13 millimeter and then just plot in some more of those final stars. You know, with a little bit more magnification, there were a couple more that were popping out. So I figured I'd take a pass around and throw all of those in as well. At the end, you know, finishing it off and taking a look again in comparison with actual images the next day, I did feel like some of the broadness of what I was getting in there was a little wider than what it actually is. But overall, in terms of placement, angle and general shape, and some of even the textures within the central nebula or central galaxy shaping there, I was pretty happily surprised with how it turned out. So overall, a nice night, and hopefully I'll get a chance to do a little bit more observing and sketching in the future soon.